Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. We're going to talk some Super Bowl championship 51 Super Bowl. Guys, I got to ask you, when you saw the numbers come out, did anything strike you? For me, the line of 3 with New England is what I thought it would be, because we've seen that advanced AFC versus NFC for several weeks, and it's been sitting at 3. And for all intents and purposes, everybody expected New England to be there, so that number was spot on. For me, when I saw the total, and I realized that they're always going to pump the total a little bit to the overside because it's a Super Bowl, because you're going to get so much just, I want to call it dead money, people that just don't bet football, but they're going to bet football that day because it's an event. And it's human nature. Most people, if you set 100 people in a room that don't know anything and you tell them, do you want to bet over this number or under that number? Human nature is going to have them take the over, because in their mind, they're never out of it. They can keep scoring. That's just the way the gambler's mentality works. But I got to say, I was shocked that the number came this high. Any initial thoughts, Tony?
Bad number. I think you're right. And you're absolutely right. The public doesn't like to root against success. They play favorites and they play overs for the most part. And both of these numbers were a bit of surprise. Actually, I think New England's a public team. -3 makes sense. I thought this game was pretty much a pick'em, and I thought the total was a bad number. I think it's 4 or 5 points probably too high as far as the sharp money goes and what the underlying peripherals. But if you put a gun to my head and made me play this game, I would probably be on the over, just because of the way this matches up. And it's the Falcons have had a great year.
Preston, you look at this, and it opened at 57.5 and immediately got to 59. And I'm looking at it, and you had the game last week with Atlanta and Green Bay, and we talked about that was the highest total that we have seen in a playoff game, and that was at 60.5, and I think it closed at 61. And at the end of the first quarter, it looked like it had no shot at getting to the over. I didn't play the game for the total, but I did jump in game whenever the total kept coming down, and got some value there. But this is a spot where you look at the styles. Both teams had great offenses last week, and Green Bay had a horrible defense, and Atlanta's defense was, middle of the pack, bottom third. But this week, now you've got the number 1 defense in part of the equation. Now, I know Atlanta's scoring a lot of points, but to get it over, you need generally both teams getting the points there. And I just don't see the styles with these two.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not as shocked, because we saw that game the week before. It opened 61 or 60.5, or actually, I apologize, it didn't open there. It opened even a couple points lower and then got bet up pretty high. So at this point, everyone's just betting Falcons overs, it seems like. The difference is in that spot. Green Bay, I think we mentioned on video, is the second worst pass defense in the NFL. The matchup was just really poor for them in that regard. And obviously the Patriots, with 2 weeks to prep for this Atlanta, with a much better defense than Green Bay has. And then also arguably an offense or a running game that they can at least get somewhat going. Wow. My phone's calling me on television right now. But I just hung up on him. I'm not sure if you're watching and you called, I'm gonna get after you later. But I think it is a few points high, just for the sake of what we've seen the last 2 weeks. But I don't blame anyone, especially here in Vegas. They're all 59s. Offshore's 58.
Right.
It goes to what you're saying. Everyone that's in town for Vegas for the Super Bowl, they're just gonna be betting overs. They're smart. They have it a point higher. So that tells you what you need to know, I think, right there.
Yeah. And even the money line's been all over the place here in town. Yesterday, you could have gotten at Golden Nuggets, you could have laid New England -145.
Yep.
At South Point, it was as high as 165, which would have got you back 145. And we'll see that as next week, we'll see the money line have more movement, because people come in, they look at, they've never bet a game, and when they go to the window and find out that they're betting 110 to win 100, to go, is that all I win? And then it's okay, so then the guy at the window will say, well, you can bet the money line, and then they're going to bet the dog, to win more money. That happens. We see that with, boxing matches too. But you look at this one, the number of 3, I look at Atlanta, and my initial reaction on this game reminds me a lot to the Super Bowl with New England and the Rams, the greatest show on turf. I mean, the Atlanta Falcons have done marvelous. That offense has been good. It's clicking, and you look at it, they play in a dome, they play on the fast track, and they're going to be going up against the defense that can take some of that stuff away. Will they be able to take enough of it away to put the Falcons away? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, and I think the hypothetical line, just if you looked at that the week before, was like 3.5, maybe even 4 some spots. So do you really take away from that Atlanta game against Green Bay that they're all of a sudden a point better after one day, one game? Probably not. So I think if you were going to bet a side, I'd bet Pats earlier than later because I think it is a little low. If you like the Falcons, you can probably wait and get a 3.5 down the road. That's my thinking, but you never know with Super Bowls and money coming from so many directions where the market's really going to go.
All right, well, that's just a little advanced preview for what we're looking at with the Super Bowl. Next week, tune in. We're going to have all kinds of stuff for you with the Super Bowl. We'll have some special guests, and we'll get into it in more detail next week as we see where these numbers are going to settle and what we're going to go with. We'll have some props for you next week as well. Everything you need next week right here at WagerTalk.com. And guys, don't forget, new thing we've got going at WagerTalk on Fridays. It's Flashback Friday. You can pick up any Friday package for just $7. Normally those plays are $20. You can pick them up for just $7 each and every Friday during the basketball season. Check it out at WagerTalk.com. We'll be back with more next week. Good luck this week and enjoy the games.